Ladies and gentlemen, episode 54. Here we go. We have a new sponsor for this particular episode, and I love this brand. It is delicious. So for today, episode 54 is brought to you by, and thank you to RX Bar for supporting the podcast. What is RX Bar, you may ask? It is a protein bar made with 100% whole ingredients. No added sugar, no artificial colors, no artificial flavors, no preservatives or fillers. Now, I first found these bars many years ago, and I found them at a CrossFit event. And I remember the first bar that I ever had. They have a variety. Hands down, my favorite is the chocolate sea salt. That thing is lights out, delicious good. And I was just looking at their website. They have a bunch of other ones, but I can vouch for the blueberry, the chocolate sea salt, the peanut butter chocolate, the mixed berry, the apple cinnamon, the coffee chocolate. These things are ridiculous. Now, what exactly are they, though? It's made with 100% whole ingredients. So a few simple, clean ingredients with where every ingredient serves a purpose. They use egg whites for protein. There's a lot of dates. They use it to bind, nuts for texture, and other delicious ingredients like unsweetened chocolate, real fruit and spices like sea salt or cinnamon. Delish. They're gluten-free, soy-free, dairy-free, no added sugar. Like I said, no artificial colors, artificial flavors, preservatives, or fillers. They have 14 different flavor varieties, and they have seasonal flavors too. If you like sweet, they have it. If you like savory, they have it. Chocolate, fruit flavor, there's an RX bar for you. What do people use them for? What have I used them for? Breakfast on the go, for sure. If you work in an office, throw one of these things in your bag. If you're in a pinch and you want to get some real food in your body, throw one down your face. Planes, no-brainer. Backpack for riding a bike or going on a hike, no-brainer. Pre-workout, post-workout. Personally, myself, I can't eat that much pre-workout. I've done a lot of testing. If I eat anything within 90 minutes of working out, people who are working out near me are going to see it. I'm serious. 89 minutes, not good. 90 plus 1 second, I seem to be okay. But if you're looking for something in a pinch, pre or post workout snack, they're good to go. The last thing that they have as well, they have a new nut butter bar. Few simple ingredients, again, like egg whites, fruit, and nuts. Each single serve packet is squeezable and spreadable and contains delicious, creamy nut butter with 9 grams of high quality protein. It's going to go good with fruit, rice cakes, if you're into those things, pretzels, which I kind of am sometimes, or straight out of the pouch. I actually will, for myself, when I'm looking for a good, clean fat source, this is something that I'll dive into. Like I said, if you're going to pick one and you've never tried these things and you like chocolate, I'm going to tell you right now, chocolate sea salt, you're not going to be let down. So where can you find these things? Well, go to RX Bar, which is literally rxbar.com/clearedhot, and use the promo code at checkout, clearedhot, CLEAREDHOT. Doesn't appear to be case sensitive, so cleared hot at checkout. And again, rxbar.com/clearedhot. And you're going to get 25% off your first order. Get you some. You're going to like them. Now let's dig into the guest today. I met Mr. Holmes, where I think most guys meet each other, over a mattress. And that's actually a joke, but I am serious. I am asked often if I actually was in a Tempur-Pedic mattress commercial. And the answer is yes. They reached out to me because they were looking for somebody who had two things. One was experience sleeping on a Tempur-Pedic mattress, which I have since the early 2000s. But two, what they were really looking for was a skydiver, I think. And I happen to have a relationship with the brand, so it kind of linked up. Skydiving is awesome in the world of skydiving or jumping in general. If it didn't happen on film, it's hard to argue as to whether or not it actually did happen. So you need a videographer. The videographer that they brought in was JT Holmes. So the first time I met him was actually at the Manifest area at Skydive San Diego. I knew who he was well before that. This guy is an absolute legend. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning, but professional skydiver and base jumper. But before that, professional skier, public speaking, stunts slash a little bit of acting in the entertainment industry. What else? If it's got wheels, he can race it. basically, if you look at the Dos Equis commercial, The Most Interesting Man Alive, that guy is JT's bitch. He's awesome. I spent a limited amount of time with him when we were shooting the commercial. Stayed in touch since. Incredibly stoked to be able to sit down with him. He's gracious enough to invite me to his house near the Lake Tahoe area, and just picked his brain on his experience in what people traditionally call extreme sports. I'll just call them atypical endeavors. And I'm going to let him fill in the rest of the blanks. So, Cleared Hot, episode 54 with JT Holmes. Enjoy.
Okay, got the red smoke. Gun run, north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke. Okay, copy, west of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now. Come on with it, baby, give it to me, I need it. Get cleared hot. Copy, cleared hot.
So let me know if I'm missing anything, GT, because here's where I was going to start. Pro skier, professional wingsuit pilot, speed flyer,
riding,
and speed rider, because
Yeah,
you can do
sure.
both, and I had to have you explain to me both. Professional racer of razors, and do you do trucks too?
I do. Dad has a truck.
Obviously trained in the arts of intelligence and seduction.
Mm.
So both of
I don't
those.
know about that.
What did I leave out?
What have you left out? No, that's pretty good.
Ski base.
Yeah, there's ski-based jumping.
Combination of.
Yeah,
So
combination of sports. And
essentially.
there's some stunt stuff and some speaking and some.
Yeah, oh my God, I did. So public speaker, because we were talking about that when you were at the house in San Diego.
Actor.
Actor now, I'd have one thing, yeah.
Did some lines with
Actually,
Nicolas Cage.
in the last few months, in the last year, I've had three little gigs with lines. Usually my line is something simple like, this time I said 5 and let's eat. And last time I said, get down.
That adjusts your pay scale, though, right?
I keep hearing that, but I don't. The checks don't reflect it. I don't. Maybe it comes down to if it makes the cut.
It's probably if it's used.
Yeah,
for sure. My point in all of that was basically the Dos Equis commercial with The Most Interesting Man Alive. That guy's kind of your sidekick, because I feel like you do more than that, and you are the most interesting man alive.
I'll take it, man. The funny thing is, my cousin, or not my cousin, a good friend of mine who I grew up skiing Squaw Valley with, it's the Dos Equis guy is actually his uncle or cousin or something. And I think that might be my marriage, but apparently he really was an unremarkably achieved actor until he got that campaign.
And now he's probably known throughout the entire world.
Yeah, and he's extremely recognizable. But he, just, B or C list actor that
catapulted,
stuck it.
Yeah, for sure. So where, of all of those things, it started with skiing, right?
It all started with skiing.
Here in Squaw?
Here in Squaw, yep.
Born and raised?
No, so I'm going to turn this down just a little. It's a little loud.
It's on the side. Here, you're number one. How's this? Put it back on. Okay. You're number one, the hero position.
Okay, I'm number one. That feels good.
How's that? Better?
A little more down.
How's that?
That's good.
All right, good.
Yeah, I grew up in...
Actually, hold on. I just turned down mine. You're number 3.
Okay.
Hold on.
I thought maybe you just started talking softer.
How's that? How's that?
That's better.
Deeper, baby.
That's good.
Okay. I was like, whoa, I'm turning it down, and mine...
I'll signal you next time.
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm new at this, man. Take it easy on me.
Okay.
Squaw Valley.
So I grew up skiing here, but I was raised in Palo Alto, California.
Okay.
And
not traditionally known for its skiing.
No, but for its weekend commuter skiers.
Yeah.
And I was one of those. Luckily, the son of 2 enthusiastic skiers. My dad, or my grandmother, I should say, had a cabin here, and then eventually my dad did, and my mom bought one too, 10 years after my dad, and so skiing was just kind of a part of my upbringing, and I enjoyed it more than ball sports.
Yeah.
I found that I got bored with most sports except for skiing. It was like the one sport I could do it all dang day. The wind in my face, the social interaction, the consequences, the speed, all of it.
I'm assuming you started My snow sport experience relatively low. Slowly getting back into it. I have no idea what the trajectory would be for somebody to go from an enthusiast to a professional. But did you just start on a resort, like the kind of traditional, work your way through, and then that you go like, okay, I have the resort nailed now, so now I'm going to go to the backcountry? Or what was your progression to becoming an actual professional?
The First of all, I decided as a really young age that it was what I wanted to do, and
How young we talking?
I had it, in my mind it was a dream, because I grew up watching ski movies. But then there was one day when I was skiing here at Squaw Valley with Shane McConkey and another guy named Jeff, and we skied the backside of that mountain right there down into Alpine Meadows. And Jeff lived there, so we walked to Jeff's house. He had some roommates. They were going to give us a ride home. I'm 14 years old. These guys are 25. And they, typical bachelor pad. There's beers and bongs and stuff. And they were passing around some weed and kind of looked at me, like sizing me up, how old was I, and didn't offer me any. I would have declined it anyways. But we got back in this little Toyota Tacoma to come back here. I had to get dropped off at school, the boarding school here in Squaw Valley, and I just thought to myself, man, these guys, they don't have anything to do except ski the day away, smoke weed. Like, so what do you do for money? And Jeff said he does construction all summer.
Yeah.
And Shane just looked at me and grinned, and he said, I'm a rock star pro skier, man. And I'll never forget it. And I've told that story many times, and I just was, at that moment I just said, all right, well, that's what I'm going to do, because it's possible. And part of it was that you could see he loved it so much in his grin and in his eyes, and part of it was that I was skiing with these guys, and I'm thinking, I can ski as well as you guys. If you can do it, I can do it. And so I just set my mind to it.
How long from that moment until you actually became pro, or you got to a place where you would have considered yourself a pro?
Right. So I consider an individual a professional at a sport if they make enough money to pay their bills with it.
Right? I can agree with that.
Yeah. So now I'd say I'm a professional multi-sport athlete because I do
like 15 things.
Right. But that would be 17 years old.
Wow.
And I was making about $45,000 or something.
I think that was my income last year, so you're ahead of me.
Yeah, right.
45 grand at 17.
And
what year was that?
Somewhere in there, it all started coming together. Maybe I don't think I'm exaggerating. It was enough where I was like, hey, Mom, Dad, I'm gonna do the college thing for sure.
Yeah.
But I am gonna do it while skiing.
What year was that, though, where you were 17? Because you're a little younger than I am, aren't you?
Yeah, that was 1997.
Wow.
And when I decided I wanted to be a professional skier, I begged my parents to let me go to this school right over there called Squaw Valley Academy. And I started to, actively pursue a career in professional skiing. I was 14 and 15, and I was the guy who picked up the yellow pages and went to the payphone at our school and looked up the names of the photographers I was seeing in Powder Magazine and went to the last names, called their homes, and said, hi, my name's JT. I ski Squaw Valley every day, and I was just wondering if you need anybody to take photos of this week. And I'm sometimes skiing with these other guys, and I'm available every day. I ski Squaw every day, so if you need anybody, just call me and ask the Dorb parents to go get me. And they never called, believe it or not. But sooner or later, I was running with the right crowd, and I got hooked up with a lot of the right people and cut a few key breaks.
Who was your first sponsor?
Well, my very first sponsor was Scott Ski Poles, and that was when I was 14 or something, and that was like anybody who was entering contests was, they were a really cool and supportive company, supporting local teams and stuff. But I'd say the first real sponsor that I had that kind of went somewhere was K2 Skis, and that was also an interesting story. I was upset with a teacher, really frustrated, and it was It was one of these California days where it's raining one minute and it's sunny the next, and I left school in my shirt and tie and sweater, and I went out and I was skiing in the rain and sometimes sun, but I'm getting kind of soaked, but I'm just venting, just blowing off steam over and over and over, skiing KT22, that lift right there,
Yep.
right down the nose, the fingers, and then jumping off these cat tracks. So I was right underneath the chair, and it's the afternoon. I mean, nobody's out. It's not like I was showing off. It's just the place to ski, and I'm hitchhiking back to Squaw Valley Academy, and this guy picks me up. I put my skis in the back, and he's a really jovial dude and asking me a bunch of questions, whatever. And I'm getting out, and he says, "Hey, what's your deal for skis?" And I'm like, "They're in the back of the truck." And he said, "No, I mean, what's your deal for skis?" And I'm like, "I got these ones. I'll just grab them." And he just like kind of shakes his head and hands me a business card, and he says, "Give me a call on Monday, would you?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." And I walk away looking at the card. The card drives off, and I look at the card. It says Eric Olson, K2 Skis. I'm just like, no way. That is so cool. It was right over my head.
Yeah.
And then a couple weeks later, I had not only 2 new pairs of skis, but stickers and sweatshirts, and
Yeah.
I mean, that was like
Heaven.
I had all these stickers I could give to my friends. It was so cool. So that was, and K2 was really great to me throughout my career. That relationship turned into my first monthly checks, my first paid trips to Alaska, my first of pretty much everything.
Yeah.
And then when I was 19, I was on the cover of a magazine and had like all these killer results, and I had several companies advertising me, and Vocal Technica came, and they offered me a great deal.
Yeah.
And I went to K2, and I just said, "What do I do?" And Jeff Matura, the time he was like a low team manager, and he says, "I'll tell you what you're going to do, kid. You're going to take that fucking deal, and when you're finished fucking around with these other off brands, you're going to call me again." And I'm sorry if I'm not supposed to swear on
It's the
your podcast.
internet, man. You can say whatever you want.
Anyway, so Jeff, Jeff was in no position to match the offer or anything.
Yeah.
He had like all these wonderful athletes that were, above the totem, higher than me on the totem pole. And Jeff, 9 years later, got a phone call from me, and
After you were done fucking about.
well, I was skiing for great brands.
Yeah.
But at one point, I just called him up. I said, "Hey, Jeff, remember when you said?" He said, "What's the number?" I gave him the number, and he's knocked like 30% off of it, and it was done.
It's a strong negotiating tactic.
Yeah.
I'm going to take the number you give me.
Well, whatever it was.
Trim a comma.
Yeah, exactly. I don't even know how that went, but it was. There's been a few times in my career where I got this phone call, hung up, and went like this, and for people that can't see us, I'm picking up a phone and putting it down, whatnot, and suddenly I had a new sponsor, and the old one, had been replaced, and I thought to myself, geez, I guess I don't really burn bridges, do I?
It's a smart strategy. Even if you're going to exit, don't slam the door on the way out, because you never know when you might actually have to open that thing up again on the way back in. I've had that in my life a few times.
Yeah, I agree.
What discipline were you were competing, right? Or were you just
yes.
an all-around?
No, I was competing.
What discipline were you competing
I competed in big mountain competitions.
Describe what that is.
Big mountain competitions is skiing typically fairly steep slopes that have some consequence, lots of cliffs and rocks.
Yep.
Lots of places you can jump off cliffs, or maybe there's natural terrain that you can take air on, wind lips or whatnot, cornices, anything. But it's a vast and varied venue that allows you to showcase a diverse amount of skiing, and most of it you'd call free skiing, or we used to call it extreme skiing.
So what are they judging you on?
Judging is typically your degree of difficulty of what you undertake, your style, your execution, as in are you in control or not, and then a fourth component, which I can't remember.
Do you get any points if you tomahawk down and your skis eject, like style?
No, that would usually be a DQ, and we all have several of those.
What's the worst run you've ever had in a competition?
That would be 2010 Verbier Extreme. So the Freeride World Tour, and keeping in mind this is 2010, I started competing in 1995.
Yeah.
I left in the middle there for a while to pursue making ski movies and then ski base and all this other stuff. But at a certain point in 2009, I decided to throw myself back into skiing because I'd never won a competition. I had seconds and thirds and fourths, but I never won. So I went back I qualified for Freeride World Tour, which was the most elite competition circuit in that sort of skiing, and I skied to win. So a little more risk and a little bit less strategy as far as I wasn't thinking about overall being the tour champion at the end. I wanted to just get my one top of the podium. So I was at the Verbier Extreme, which is the most prestigious one and the final stop, and it's the where the champions are crowned, and there's thousands of people watching, and I went for a very aggressive line. And my friend Cody Townsend, he named the line the pallbearer, and he did that because when you go to these contests, it's all about one run, but you spend 2 or 3 days with binoculars at certain vantage points.
Really?
Figuring out what you're going to ski.
Do you test it before you go live?
No, you're not allowed on the venue. It's closed.
Really?
Yeah, so it's
okay.
Visual inspection only, which is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
It makes for a venue that's not already beat up, tracked out, and mobiled up. It's like, okay, this is fresh tracks, backcountry style skiing. And this is a big mountain. The Bector Ross is, I think it's 2,500 or 3,000 foot face, and it's steep. It's very, very, very steep. It's one of these places that if you fall, you're going to go for a very long, long time.
Did he name it the pallbearer before or after?
So I said, hey, Cody, what about that over there? I'm thinking about doing that. And he said, do you want me to be one of your pallbearers? And I'm like, no, it's not that bad. It's going to be fine. Like, if you fall, you might hit that rock, but it's pretty open there. And anyway, I went for it, and I dropped in and immediately I thought to myself, okay, this is like things aren't going really well right now, and part of that is it's a north-facing slope, and so it's shady. Yeah. And those other parts that had a lot more light, I got over there and I'm like, whoa, my eyes are kind of adjusting, and things are actually feeling a little out of place as far as the scale of things. And so I was like kind of hesitating with my landmarks, and then I went for this quite big cliff jump, and my tails hit rock, but I was still on my feet. And then I had to make this left-hand turn. I thought I still had it. I thought I was still going good, but this left-hand turn was a lot to ask of the ski. And when I lost my tails, I suddenly did an airborne flip before I hit, and then I did 14 full tomahawks down about 1,500 vertical feet. And in the end of my Freeride World Tour career, I never won a contest, never got my white whale, but I did get the worst wipeout of all time. It's on the internet. Look it up.
Do you mind if I post it to the...
Oh, please do. Freeride World Tour top 5 worst crashes of all time, and I'm number 1. So,
were you still conscious at the end of those tomahawks, or were you just...
I was conscious. So there's a rule. The rule is if you're okay, wave. If you're not okay, do nothing.
Lay very still.
Yeah, and I tumbled and tumbled and tumbled, and then I tumbled and tumbled and tumbled. And then when I was done, I dug my heels in and I gave a wave. And I looked back up and I thought, how the heck am I going to get my skis? I mean, I could see one of them 1,000 feet up. For sure, not less. And but I'm in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So moments later, a man comes from the sky, dangling from a helicopter,
yep.
Wraps me, like gives me a hug, and suddenly I'm in a harness, and I'm 2,000 feet in the air. And next thing you know, I'm at the ski patrol shack, which is right in front of the 2,000 onlookers. Very embarrassing.
What I like about the physics of that crash is this. It's 14 tomahawks over 1,500 feet, so it's about one
100
tomahawk
foot
per 100.
Yeah.
Well, you got
That's really cool.
full rotations. Now it was 28. It was head feet. So if you want to count, I count a full tomahawk as a full rotation.
Yeah.
So it was 28 head feet. And then afterwards there was like this one kind of backslide thing.
I'm absolutely linking.
Oh yeah, link to it.
So whoever's listening to this, put it on pause right now and go watch that, and then we will come back.
By the way, we should introduce the third voice.
I'll let you.
Okay. This is Dan Schilling. Dan is a friend of mine since 2002, the fall. I had just begun base jumping. I landed in his backyard. We've been friends ever since. Dan is a retired special operations for the Air Force, a combat controller, and he is now a full-time writer living in Alta, Utah.
It's a pretty solid intro.
Yeah, he's a really good intro. He makes you sound better. If he can describe me, then I'm hoping that would even be better. But
Describe you?
Yeah, like looks.
Oh, well, he's balding, but has a great hair. The hair's great that's left, and he's got a great salt and pepper beard. When I met him in 2002, he was this. I had landed. Keeping in mind, I'm a rookie parachutist. I have not completed the AFF course, which is a 7-jump course to bring you into the sport of skydiving, where you then can jump out of the airplane without an instructor. You're still not even licensed by the time you finish the AFF course. I'm halfway through that, and I'm jumping off cliffs in Salt Lake City. I landed nicely, but my parachute fell over in a prickly bush, so we couldn't escape quickly.
And the lone tree on that DZ.
Yeah, the only place for your parachute not to end up.
Never look at the object you're trying to avoid.
Well, I didn't hit it.
But you still couldn't escape.
Right. And well, I'm glad I didn't, because this guy came out and we're like, oh, this guy, he's, some putz coming out to scold us. And he says, I knew that cliff was jumpable, and you're going to teach me how. And I think I looked at him and I went to the guy, I pointed at the Australian gentleman with 700 base jumps, and he's top level at the time in the sport, and I said, he'll teach you how. Jimmy Freeman, that was who taught us both how to base jump. Jimmy Freeman at the time had 700 base jumps. This was in 2002. So
that's quite a lot for that
and
time
he was
period.
wingsuiting.
Yeah.
In 2002.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he was traveling around the States. He was an Aussie, and he was with his girlfriend, who was a gymnast, Sharon. We all knew her as Shaza, and still do. She's a great lady. But she was a gymnast, and so she had mad acrobatic skills, and her ability to do stuff like off New River Gorge.
Yeah.
They'd do a synchronized, this is again like 2002, way ahead of everybody else. They'd do a synchronized,
quad flip.
Yep, with
twists.
with twists, and they were synchronized. It was
pretty cool.
Thing of beauty. So they landed in my backyard, and they had no money. They were already soaking JT for $20 a pack job, and because he didn't even know how to pack. He had no business base jumping, but his natural athleticism got him through. But we're hanging out, and I said, "You guys can stay at my house as long as you want. Teach me how to base jump." So we went up like a few days later, and I was a prorated skydiver and military halo guy for years, and man, you never look back. You know what it's like. You get that taste of base jumping where the visual inputs and the serenity of no engine noise and the camaraderie with your friends while you're climbing, it grabs you in a way that I think no other sport really can, because it's got this gravity fueled but at the same time, the consequences are almost absolute. You're measuring things in half seconds, and nobody does that in gravity-fueled sports.
It's hard to describe to people absent some level of experiencing it on their part. Otherwise, it's 90%, I would say, over the top of the head.
There's one way I have described it that I think is kind of interesting, is suicide riding. You are enjoying the exact visuals that those hopeless souls are, plummeting to their demise on the street below.
For a few seconds, yes.
Right. We're seeking out these locations, those bridges, those skyscrapers, and that's where we're recreating. And it's not a flattering term for our sport, but it's kind of a.
I would say the description is accurate for sure, especially in the context.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go back a second here.
We're sidetracked. But that's okay.
You're halfway through your AFF course, and
Mhm.
you're already base jumping. I'm going to call that an atypical approach to canopy sports.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you're safe in that assessment, Andy.
Yeah. Miles told me he taught somebody one time who had never jumped before, and he would never do it again,
Right.
just because of the, I guess, language barrier and experience barrier.
Mm.
So how many base jumps did you have by the time you finished AFF? Did you have more base jumps than skydives?
Yeah. For the first few years, I had twice as many base jumps as skydives, roughly. But you got to remember, Twin Falls is a place you get a lot of base
You
jumps.
can get a lot a day. I've gotten 10
Yeah.
in a day there for sure.
Yeah.
So you can definitely crank that out. When I first saw you, I had no idea that you were a pro skier. The first time I ever saw you was in the McConkey
Mm-hmm.
documentary, where you were combining your
Yeah.
professional skiing ability and your base jumping ability. So talk to me, how did you learn from the Aussie,
Yep.
and then you shortly thereafter started jumping with Shane pretty regularly, right?
Well, no. So it started with Shane. Shane brought me and 4 friends to what he called Plunge to Your Death Camp, which was
He probably called it exactly that, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He called it exactly that. That was no exaggeration. He'd already thrown his girlfriend off the bridge, and Miles had thrown his girlfriend off the bridge, and they both went on to marry those girls. So, but
So it's
so
a
I
good
did.
strategy
I did
for
4 base jumps there,
Mhm.
and then that was in June of 2002, and school started in Salt Lake City at University of Utah in August.
Mhm.
Between June and August, I got base jumping equipment, which wasn't entirely easy, but it was actually pretty easy. I got a canopy from a friend, and then Consolidated Rigging, which is then Asylum and now merged with Squirrel. They wouldn't sell me
Marty?
Marty wouldn't sell me something.
Yeah.
And I was pissed at the time. Marty and I are good friends now, but because for me, I had driven down to Auburn. It was like an errand. For him, it was a moral dilemma. And anyway, I got a base rig, and I went to the bridge with the plan of just doing rollovers, which was a trick where you dangle the parachute off the bridge and dive out over in a front flip, and it flips up. And I'd seen Shane and his buddies doing that, and it looked pretty simple. And I knew how to keep the line, stow the brakes, and keep the lines untangled. So I went to the bridge with that plan. And when I got there, I met the Australians, and they assessed me as, having no clue, but having some money because I had a truck and, was probably staying in the hotel in Motel 6, and they had a jalopy that they were sleeping in.
That they left at my house.
Yeah.
And I ended up having to find a
They
title.
saw an equity exchange possible.
Right. So, anyways, they ended up taking me under their wing, teaching me not teaching me, but packing me for $20 a pack job. So I ended up with, by the time I went to the cliff in Dan's backyard, I had 17 base jumps, all of them packed.
Mhm.
There was one tidbit that might not be interesting for our viewers because they don't know the lingo, but so when I met Jimmy, I tried to kind of act like I knew what I was doing. And so like, oh, what are you up to? And I just was watching some jumping, and kind of I was gonna look at people's rigs and figure out how to assemble the system. And I had gotten the 3-ring riser exactly right, and then I had everything. I had a pilot chute, but I didn't have a bridle.
Yep.
And so I asked about the bridle, I didn't need a bridle because I was going to be doing rollovers, but I wanted to be able to get packed up if I could. And so he started asking me some questions, and I started acting like I knew what I was doing. He said, "What kind of canopy you have?" And I said, "It's a Mojo." And he's like, "Why does it say Fox on it?" I said, "Well, that's the Fox built by Mojo." And he's just like, "You don't have any base jumps, do you?" and I just at that point I just fessed up, and he's like, "Yeah, cool."
But he had.
I like your style. Come
could-
here.
He had so little idea what he was doing. No idea how to pack a parachute of any type, even skydiving, that they were labeling the tabs on the A, B, and C lines on that canopy.
Oh,
They had little marks, and they made him this little video so JT could actually try and follow it, and then he could look at the lines where they ended up on the canopy to fold it into a base pack.
This was after
It
they
was so
milked me
funny. It was
for about
ridiculous.
30 pack jobs.
Yeah.
I didn't
God,
I didn't pack my own parachute till the 51st base jump. 51.
My God,
Yeah.
your progression is anything but typical for sure.
Yeah.
So
But I wasn't anti-skydiving. I was skydiving as much as I could.
yeah, okay,
But I was going to school right there on the Wasatch Front, and the drop zones are over there, and you gotta,
yeah,
you gotta have the coach and the book the appointment and.
But I think you had already latched on to the significant difference between skydiving and base jumping, the appeal both visually and the exacting nature of the sport.
Right.
So when did you throw a set of skis on in base jump?
That was January 15th, 2003. So now we're 7 months. 7 months into it,
Yeah.
and I had 65 or 66 base jumps, and probably by then about 30 or 40 skydives.
Okay.
So
And obviously an insane amount of skiing. So that was
the
not,
skiing
that,
part,
Yeah.
skiing part was second nature.
That first jump, was that Lover's Leap?
Lover's Leap,
Which is, I don't know, it's somewhere near here, right?
about an hour and 20 minutes south.
Okay. And then where did your progression go from there? Because didn't you go to Baffin after that too? And then you started messing
No.
around with.
I didn't go to Baffin until 2011 or something. I didn't go on that first trip with Shane to
Okay.
Baffin. That was 2000. That was 1999.
That's the one where we went off naked, right?
Yeah, Miles went naked, and
No
That
one,
was- that
no one
was
needs to see
Shane's-
that.
yeah, no,
No.
no,
No one needs
Nobody.
to see that.
no. Shane. So that was a cool thing because Shane and I were good ski friends, and we were hanging out, and he was sponsored by Red Bull, and he had an injury, and he didn't just sit back and watch movies. He dedicated himself to like busting down the door at Red Bull and making them pay for him to go to his dream location for base jumping, and that was Baffin Island. And I'd never heard of Baffin Island, but he just, his eyes would sparkle when he talked about going there.
The videos from there are unbelievable.
Cool trip.
Oh my God.
The jumps they did were so fun looking.
Yeah, and just again, I'm gonna link to that video too because if you, I can't describe it, the epic nature of where they were and the jumps
Yeah.
they were doing.
Sleeping on a frozen ocean in with 4,000-foot granite walls coming straight out of the frozen ocean.
Tracking out over an ice field and using a
Yeah.
snowmobile as your reference for where it ends.
Yeah, and it's one of the very coolest places I've ever been on Earth. There's polar bears there. There's seals and there's Arctic char, Arctic cod or whatever they're pulling out of there. Unbelievably good fish.
Yeah.
And it's a place where you should be mostly disconnected, but you're achieving really quite safe base jumps.
Yeah.
You have a lot of opportunity to get far away from walls, and you have huge landing areas.
Yeah.
So it's the type of place you could go with fairly minimal experience and have a really good time.
Yeah, because it's at the very least sheer, if not overhung, on some of those. It looked like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A lot of overhang. And there's what I think was so cool about their trip was it was before wingsuits were popular. It was before tracking gear was popular, and wingsuits and tracking gear are cool. They make you have more of. It's like having horsepower for your human flight. Everybody wants horsepower, but when you don't have that, you have more agility and more. You're just free. You're just free falling, literally. You're falling straight down, and these guys are doing 7 flips off these things and going on their back and
Yeah.
doing barrel rolls, and it's just the purity of the sport is represented in the jumps they were doing on that trip.
Sometimes I do that stuff in wingsuits too, but not
Yeah.
in control.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is in 2000, in the mid 2000s, we were doing a lot more of that in wingsuits because our wingsuits were tiny.
If you look at a picture from above of a wingsuit in the early 2000s and a
Yeah.
wingsuit today, it's the same book, but it is certainly a different chapter.
Oh yes, it's
Miles
totally
was
different.
telling me about the first ones he jumped where he's got the thumb loops,
Yep.
and he's just
Yep.
and you're looking at the legs and you can see the mesh venting instead of the ram air inlets. And so when did you put one on for the first time?
That was fall of 2002 at about 33 skydives, I think.
You skydived it first, right?
Yeah, no, I skydived
Okay.
it first. I got quite comfortable in it
Okay.
skydiving. Yeah, and I respected it all. And it was a Skyflyer 2. No, it was the original Skyflyer.
Okay.
So there was the Birdman, which became known as the Birdman Classic.
Yep.
But at the time, it was not a classic because it was the new.
Cutting edge.
And
It was the Birdman new.
yeah, and then they came out with the Skyflyer. So I had the original Skyflyer. I got it from a guy named Jim Jennings, who was leaving the sport when I entered, and I've equated that suit to being like riding a skateboard with loose trucks. You know,
It's a good description.
if you want to go fast, it gets wobbly unless you're really good.
Yeah.
And you really understand the thing. I actually don't think I didn't wingsuit base jump till 2004.
Okay.
I didn't bond with that Skyflyer. It wasn't, it wasn't my jam. It was just, it didn't fit right. It wasn't the greatest suit. It wasn't the most popular suit, and we just didn't bond. So, and there was so many other things to do. In skydiving and in base jumping, and yeah.
Did you combine the two as well, wingsuits and skis?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's about as far out there on the edge as I think you can probably combine.
It was fun. So, as you know, when you base jump, it's like you get that roller coaster moment where you kind of lose your. There's the astronaut moment where it's all silent. Then there's the roller coaster moment where you lose your stomach, and then there's the holy crap, I'm falling down the elevator shaft moment where you're going
Head
really
first.
fast. Yeah. So, but if you ski base, those first two moments are gone because you're already going
Your
fast.
trajectory is taking
It's
you
like
off.
so it's a shot out of the cannon moment, and then you either have opened your parachute or you've go into the elevator shaft moment. And when you wingsuit, you can describe it as well as anybody, but you kind of have that astronaut moment, a quick elevator shaft, and then it's the fighter jet.
Yep. Where you're the nose of the fighter jet.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're ripping, and you have
Yeah.
all kinds of control, and it feels really good. And
Yep.
speed just adds more control, and
It's commensurate with your smile. The
Right.
faster you go, it just grows.
Yeah. and it all makes sense, and it's all quite simple, and it seems you feel like you have quite precise everything. So then, if you think about wingsuit ski base, it's like getting shot out of a cannon and then going straight into being the nose of the fighter jet, which is kind of bitchin'.
I mean, watching it visually, yeah. I mean, I have an appreciation for it, and nowhere near the skill level on the first aspect to successfully complete that. But yeah, I can imagine.
There were only 7 ever done wingsuit ski base jumps.
7 total.
7, yeah. Shane and I each did 3 in November in 2007.
Yeah.
We each did 3 wingsuit ski base jumps, and then I guess there's 8. And then the day before Shane died, I did one, and he did a normal ski base there. It was about 1,000-foot cliff, and then the day that he died, I jumped, and so we'll call that 8.
Mm-hmm.
I went first, and he went second. We can't count his.
Yeah. How long did it take you to feel comfortable jumping again after his death?
He died in March, and I went again. I think it was the end of May.
Has it changed the way that you think about it?
Yeah, that and the fact that the gentleman, the Australian mentor of ours, the guy who taught Dan and I, died on Halloween of 2009, the same year as Shane. I watched Eric Roner die in a tree right over there. I brought a kid named Timmy Dutton into the sport, who became my best friend, and he was my best friend before we brought him into the sport, and he passed away skydiving, and so it all has changed it massively. Ignorance was awesome.
Yeah, no kidding.
Wasn't that fun?
Ignorance and not having exposure to having to deal with that.
Yeah.
It certainly can change your. I don't know what the enjoyment level of the activity for sure. What? So how much do you base jump now?
Much less. Dan and I went to the bridge recently. It was blasting wind. And we don't go.
Which is known to happen in old Twin Falls.
Yeah.
I think the difference being, though, at a certain point when you've jumped a lot, you don't have that drive to push that. You know, if it's blowing, we just don't go. That's not the way we would have approached that even a few years ago.
Quality over quantity is where I've ended up on the spectrum. I was bummed to not join the Red Bull guys on a trip to Switzerland this year to do some base jumping. This was in June, to do some base jumping, some heli base. But I had this flesh wound thing.
Hey, what'd you do to yourself?
I keep pointing like their audience can hear, but there's a...
They can hear, they can't see.
No, I mean, our audience can see what I'm pointing at, but just so everybody knows, we're on a deck in Squaw Valley, California, where you can see the entire beautiful mountain of Squaw Valley. And the what I'm pointing at now is a service road that has a switchback. And one of my sponsors is BF Goodrich Tires, and they're awesome people and make a great tire. And they had a new tire coming out, the KM3, their new mud terrain tire. So to showcase it, they brought social media influencers and journalists and VIP dealers to Squaw Valley to experience the tire in different vehicles, on the road, in Jeeps on the Rubicon Trail, and in Polaris Razors going up these service roads, these dirt roads up to a vista. And then me and 4 other professional drivers were to drive them back down, because down is supposed to be more dangerous than up. Well, everybody, there was no timing, there was no race. Everybody was cool, calm, and collected and enjoying the opportunity to drive these cars, these rad 2018 Polaris Turbo S killer Razor. And this one guy just drove. He was the total outlier, and he drove with a complete lack of self-preservation and
or consideration.
Yeah, I mean, he flipped us on the way up on a left-hand 180, and so I'm the passenger. So obviously the outside, the passenger side takes that first impact. I could see my bone. That was the first time I've ever seen my bone, but nothing was broken.
Just complete,
just
like meat slicer,
road rash, and 2 pretty bad puncture wounds.
Did you give him a high five afterwards?
Man, so people approached us. They thought I was going to hit him with my left hand, with my good hand. What can I say? I was upset with the gentleman.
Yeah, I mean, you may have had cause to be. It's hard to say. He probably came out of it unscathed, right?
Of course.
Of course he did, yes.
Yeah.
And unapologetic.
Yeah. Well,
ignorance is bliss.
To his credit, I told the event organizers to keep him away from me. I didn't want to see him, and they obliged. So maybe he would have apologized, but he didn't go out of his way or send me a Instagram note or anything.
Sounds like a stand-up guy. So you've been jumping. How many years has that put for you?
16.
What's your favorite experience so far in those 16 years? Anything stick out?
Yes, there's a few favorite experiences. One of them is Baffin Island. I got to go there to the location of Shane McConkey, my best friend and mentors. It was his dream trip with his buddies in 1999, and I got to go there in 2011 to film a commercial. And that was an interesting trip. I'll try to tell the story on a shorter version, but we were up there filming with Camp 4 Collective, major commercial. We were supposed to have a helicopter, and we had staged with 23 barrels of Jet A out on the ice, which is no small task to get that out there. It's no small task to get yourself out there. It's a few airplane rides, and usually you lose a day on one of them because of weather, and then it's 9 hours on a snowmobile.
Yeah, I was going to say, at some point they either land a plane with skis, or you're out there for...
Yeah, it's about 8 hours, but it's a pleasant 8 hours on the snowmobile because everything's really smooth. It's not like whoops and stuff.
Yeah.
Frozen ocean and like gentle hills.
There's worse.
Yeah, there is. So we got there, and while we had perfect weather, there was bad weather between us and our helicopter, so it never came. And that was, in the end, it was kind of cool because what was supposed to be a shot list that was achieved over 45 jumps, just gluttonous pillaging of the landscape, tagging first descents on skis.
We're going to need to do this jump 5 times.
Yeah, exactly.
Safeties.
Yeah, exactly. Don't roll the camera yet.
I'm going to need 6 practice jumps.
But we never got our helicopter, so it all came down to 6 or 7 hikes.
Those are not going to be short.
No, 3,000 foot hikes. A couple of them. There's one smaller cliff is 2,000, and the biggest one was more than 4,000. But it's also a pressure thing. There's 6 shots. You're gonna do 6 jumps. Not even 6 jumps. We did several jump. We did, I think, 3 jumps, and then because it involved skiing and ski base, and so then we had to shoot the skiing. Anyway, 6 ascents and descents was the whole thing. So if your athletic performance is botched, that's 1/6 down. So that's 12.5%, 16%, something like that.
Yep.
16 and a 16.666.
16.3 or something like that.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah. So that's the effect of you've had on the production if you botch your performance. And so it was kind of cool. And guess what? All the cameras got to get up there. All the parachutes, all the skis, everything's got to happen. Big old tripods. We planned for having a helicopter. We packed heavy. And everybody stepped up. It was really cool.
That's cool.
We all left with a, don't get me wrong, I wish the helicopter showed up.
Yeah.
But we bonded in a way that I don't think we could have in that, that other version.
I describe camaraderie as you just share suffering and laughter. Like that's the gel of what makes the military small units what they are. You sit in a foxhole and it sucks, and then you look at each other and you laugh, and it's like, okay, we're good.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine because I don't have the experience. But I think there's another component of it, which is reliability. When you find reliability amongst your peers that is impeccable.
Yeah.
That's bonding there.
And I think in Andy's description of camaraderie, that's a given. That's an assumption because
it's
the
selection
foundation
process.
Yeah, it's the foundation that we're all built on.
Yeah,
right.
The selection process is supposed to filter for those people. It is not perfect, nor is any selection process. You get some unique snowflakes that do in fact make it through and display interesting qualities at times that are not beneficial.
Right. I can imagine.
But with everybody else, the tightness, the bond, because the foundation is based on the mutual trust and the respect for the capability that each individual has. But then you go from there on to the camaraderie you're talking about, JT, and I think we're spoiled, guys like us, because we've experienced a level of mutual commitment, and humans don't have that in general.
I know that we're spoiled because I can see the manifestation. And I'm sure other people can see it in me. It's easy for me to see it in other people of what happens when they leave those tight-knit communities and they go and they integrate into whatever you want to call it, society or an office job or whatever it may be. But they leave that tight-knit and they lose that origin, that single origin, and they struggle.
They mourn for it.
They mourn for it, and they become either wildly entrepreneurial because they can do it themselves. So they're like, you know what,
right.
Screw everybody else. I'm going to do it myself. Or they disappear and say same thing, screw it, I'm going to do it by myself, but they're down in a van by the river. Or they add alcohol in combination to both of those things. That's the most general combination that I've seen. But I've very rarely heard anybody express, man, I left that community and you'll never believe what I found on the outside. It's a rare thing, and we're incredibly lucky to have experienced it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think part of the appeal for me that I found in base jumping, vice skydiving, for instance, was a proximal sort of relationship with the people that you're doing it with. Like, I'm really close to JT. To me, he's like my little brother.
Yeah.
And like any little brother, he's smarter, faster,
course.
stronger, better looking.
He's the most interesting man in the world.
Absolutely is. And but it's so I feel fortunate to have picked up some of that, because there's another handful of people in addition to JT, and it's loss. And ultimately in life, all things are loss, because everything's ephemeral, and you don't ever control or hold on to anything for the entirety of your life. Not to go down that rabbit hole, but I just think it's cool.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
And all those years.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, you go.
In all those years jumping, other side of the coin, worst experience.
Well, I want to hit the other extreme highlight of it all was 2010 wingsuits off skyscrapers and out of helis, past skyscrapers in Chicago.
Such an
I know,
epic
bastard.
Yeah.
I was just in Chicago, and I actually was literally driving, because nobody can see this. I was literally driving, just fingering the building you were on, and thinking of you.
Yeah.
I should have called you.
I know. Once in a
or
lifetime.
FaceTimed you and just been like,
Yep.
It's not too late. You can give him one now.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So explain what you were doing and what you were doing it for, because it was, I mean, that's a chance of a lifetime.
Absolute chance of a lifetime. It was filming for Transformers 3, Dark of the Moon, directed by Michael Bay, who had seen my friend Julian and I flying wingsuits in Norway on 60 Minutes, and he called.
Julian Bull?
Yep. And he called Steven Spielberg and said, "Hey, we gotta have Transformers in Transformers 3.
Yeah,
Gotta have wingsuits in Transformers 3."
It
So
probably helps the script when it goes that direction, as opposed to somebody else saying, "Hey, this is a good idea."
right. So I was flown to LA and met with Michael Bay, and we put our heads together, and he already had this like beautiful this photo album full of beautiful photos of skyscrapers, and I kind of started scratching my chin, and this was 2000, late 2009 actually was when we met, and Google Earth existed, I'm sure, but it wasn't as popular, it wasn't as refined, or at least maybe I wasn't as familiar, so I just said, "Hey, you got to put me on a plane."
Well, yeah, that's going to trump the Google Earth.
Yeah, of course,
anyway,
yeah. But basically I said no more convos until I go, and I went there and scouted, and just went to the top of the highest buildings in the city and found beautiful lines. And I valued it. I knew it was a once in a lifetimer. I knew that that it might be, kind of a once in a sport sort of opportunity that might not. Wingsuiting may never be showcased as big, or in. Big is not the right word, but in Hollywood or whatever it is, it was a hell of an opportunity.
Yeah, emphasized. So, but what I like about
grand
this,
of a scale, I would say.
Yeah, and I mean, it was integral to the entire climax. It wasn't just some one-off visual that the director wanted. But what I like about this whole story, as it involves JT, is it's typical JT, because of the five guys jumping, but four guys who were actually on the camera in front on film. The other guys had like an average of 18,000 jumps, and JT, who's driving the train, has like a fraction of the jumps of everybody else. Of course he does. Which is standard JT. You
surround yourself with the very best, right?
Can't go wrong.
Draft off their experience and hope that you know where your boundaries are before you hit them.
That's right. And I learned so much on that from my friends John DeVore, Mike Swanson, and Andy Farrington of the Red Bull Air Force.
Great skydivers and base jumpers.
And I continue to learn from those guys.
Yeah. If you want to talk about the apex, those three sit atop the apex of anything that involves a canopy, for sure.
Yeah, they're rad.
How high is that? It was the Trump Tower, right?
So no, we jumped the Trump without wingsuits for a separate scene in the movie.
Oh yeah, when they were supposed to jump out the windows.
Yep.
Okay.
And we flew past the Trump Tower and down the river out of a helicopter several times, and then we jumped from the two different exit points on the Willis Tower. The Sears Tower is what we all know it as. So I did four jumps from Sears Tower, and
With permission.
With permission.
Yeah.
Taking the elevator up.
Hi, this is all of my jump stuff. I'm just going to go to the roof and jump off. And you guys got your check, right? We're good here?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Oh,
We're very, very spoiled.
So what was the altitude of that building, though, the wingsuit one, the Sears Tower?
1,450 feet.
That's not shitty. That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
It's pretty good. But keep in mind, the wingsuits weren't as big. We
Yeah.
could have jumped Vampires, or even, I think then we could have had Vampire 3s.
Which is a brand of wingsuit.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah, so we were using smaller wingsuits, but I steered us towards smaller, less glide angle, more stable, better openings, rather than bigger, more performance, more glide, because A, it was what I was already comfortable with,
Yeah.
and B, I knew to pull it off safely, the most important thing was openings and not to get line twists, and to be able to reach those pilot chutes. And so we flew with S-Fly experts.
How hard was it to get permission from the buildings?
Buildings were easy.
Are you serious?
Well, yeah,
Well, you
but
also probably had a massive checkbook.
you stroke a
behind
check, yeah. And I didn't do any of that. Location managers do that.
Yeah, you gave them the idea and said, hey, if you want to do this, this is what's required.
I actually have the PowerPoint. We could link to that too.
Okay. I absolutely will.
Like the PowerPoint that I first made on my first scout trip.
Wow.
And I presented to jump off the Hancock building, which was the only one we got denied on. Because I wanted to jump the Hancock and land in a park, and the park was next to a building called Water Tower Place, and Water Tower Place, I believe, or an adjacent building, has a children's hospital there, and they wouldn't even let helicopters land for the children's hospital. They're just, for some reason, anti-noise.
Uber restrictive.
Yeah. And I thought the Hancock building would have been cool because it's actually not sheer. And that just, it would have been visual.
Get a good start.
Well, if a knucklehead jumped off there in his tennis shoes and his business suit, he's landing in the street. He's not hitting the building.
Okay.
But it still isn't sheer.
Okay.
You know how that goes.
I do, yes.
So
It's a sharp angle, but it's still not vertical.
It's exactly right. So there was that, and there was a flyby on Hancock that got denied, but everything else went through. And those were flying down Wacker Drive with the Willis Tower on your left, a sharp left around Trump Tower and down the river, and then another one past Aon Center with the huge park, I can't think of it, on our right, and into we opened near a building called Aqua and landed in a park surrounded by condominium buildings. And then the culminating one was a line that I didn't see it the first time I went on top of the Sears Tower, but the second or third I spotted it, and it not only matched the director's vision perfectly, but it was a bold line that would withstand the test of time in the sport of wingsuit jumping. And now, I don't know anybody has ever been up there, anybody even noticed it, but when I first showed Mike and John and Andy will do anything, but they said, well, why are we going off here? And this was a corner of the building where you're out on the erect, like 90-degree corner, protruding 90-degree corner, and you have to step off, and you're going to enter 90-degree V of architecture, geometric architecture.
Oh, wow.
So if you look at this table, and then imagine, two chairs like that.
Yep.
But they're down here. So you're jumping off into this.
Oh, wow.
90 feet down, you're in a world of buildings. The windows are right there. Because, it's going out like that. So, and it's counterintuitive because you are heading straight towards where you cannot go. A bunch of tall buildings and a bunch of dense streets and nowhere to land and nowhere to fly. So you have to go off that way and turn around and come then around another building called 311 Wacker Drive.
Essentially an S-turn?
S-turn, but a proper S-turn, not like a little weaving S-turn. 2 90-degree turns.
Which is a lot to manage in a wing. I mean, that's going to be tough for people to, I get it. You got to manage your energy, your speed.
At low velocity on your first turn to begin with.
And below the 90-degree, below the V is a ledge. There's more architecture down there. So, you know, it was down there. It was 700 feet down.
Yeah.
But in an S-Fly Expert, it's at least visual.
Yeah.
You're diving towards it, a 700-foot ledge, you know. And the guys gave it the moniker Suicide Corner. It was the one thing that made us all really nervous. And so I pitched a rehearsal, which they obliged and sent us to Switzerland on a paid rehearsal with a helicopter. And that was, believe it or not, fun.
Yeah.
And
shocking.
Yeah. We found a cliff that was 1,375 feet. Yellow Ocean, which you're familiar with.
My first wingsuit base jump in the valley.
Yep. So we trained at Yellow Ocean, and we, because we figured, all right, we need to take 5 ways off Yellow Ocean.
Yeah.
And the first time we did that was like, okay, this is scary as hell, and we're gonna add a whole bunch of other components to this.
Yeah.
So we trained on this 1,375-foot cliff, and we would make ourselves land in the same spot in the farmer's field, and we would make ourselves stay in a tight formation, and then not, you know, we can't when you open your parachute, you have to have separation from the other parachutes because you don't know exactly what's going to happen. Maybe you're opening facing left, maybe you're facing right, maybe your parachute takes a while, maybe it opens quick. So you need separation, and horizontal separation was not an option, so we had to dial in our vertical separation.
Yep.
Because the buildings are going to be on the right and left, and you only have 2 lanes and a sidewalk width, which isn't that much. So we figured all that stuff out and just trained and trained and trained. And then keeping in mind that only a third of the jumps were from buildings, and the rest were from helicopters. So we got really dialed in with the helicopter base too.
Yeah. I'm assuming the director liked what he saw when you guys were able to successfully complete that.
Yeah, and we did 14 successful jumps in the city, and we won an award, and we're nominated for others.
Yeah, I don't think it gets any better than that.
Dream job. I've had killer work in the motion picture business since then, and I knew going in, I'm like, it doesn't get any better than this. And other stunt guys were like, it doesn't get any better than this. You're performing your craft on a world stage, and you have the keys to the city. We stormed the castle.
Can you imagine people just sitting at their desk?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can Google the Skydeck windows. And this is also an interesting story, and I know I'm being long-winded, but
no, go ahead.
So we go train, and I'm the guy who's like, we can do this, we can do that, we can't do this, we can do that. I'm putting out some bold claims, and they're already, spent a lot of money on a rehearsal and on permits and shutting down the city and PAs and all this stuff. But we show up to Chicago, and they give us a call sheet. This is my first ever call sheet. I don't really know how this stuff works. And what is the first shot on the call sheet?
You guys
Suicide Corner. And I'm just like, oh crap! It's a 1 in 14 chance that they put that shot first.
Yep.
And I'm just thinking, we can't do that first. We have to warm up, right?
I would recommend it.
Yes,
that's a Cold War shot.
But you and I get that.
Yeah.
Because we're athletes, and
because we're the ones wearing the goddamn suits.
Right. Well, they don't really get that. I'm just the guy who said I can do it, and now
I can do it later.
5 days beforehand, I say we have to jump off the other side of the building first to warm up. And they're like, do you realize what this means? That we have to get new permits to get cameras on these other
grips
buildings.
Have to build a launching platform.
Grips have
to
build a new launching platform. The streets have to get shut down. The location managers are, put into overtime to get the city to clear a whole new lock off. But I had to insist. So we jumped above the Skydeck windows. So there's tourists sitting there looking down through their feet, standing in those glass boxes.
No way.
And we're standing on top of them.
No way.
Yeah, we're just looking at them. They have no idea we're there. And then whoever was there when we went.
Got the show of their life.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely. That's so cool.
Yeah,
I would have thought that would have been the second highlight. I would imagine a mattress commercial would have been like the number one.
Oh, yes. Yeah, well, that was, yeah.
Which is actually
was
how he and I
wonderful.
met.
I don't even know this story.
So-
I know almost all JT stories.
He and I met where most men meet, which is over a mattress. I mean, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Facing the same direction.
Well, I was hoping to meet
We were
Andy.
facing each other,
Andy.
yes.
Oh, that's better than facing the same direction.
No, I got
Tempur-Pedic.
hit by a Tempur-Pedic. It was odd. I had a relationship with the brand through a nonprofit arm that they were working with, and they wanted to incorporate skydiving. They didn't even really know what they wanted, a skydiving type scene. And they called me and it's like, hey, would you do it? And it's like, they described what they want. I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And they sourced the camera person. I mean, I was like out of it. I'm like, I could point you in the right direction, but you guys go whatever you want to. They're like, all right, dude, we're gonna get this guy JT Holmes. And I literally was like, no shit. The JT Holmes?
What year was this?
2 years ago?
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah.
It was 2 years ago. And yeah, met him at Skydive San Diego. And then we banged out a few practice jumps, and then
I remember when you went. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember we were doing something, and you were like, "I got to go down and do this thing in San Diego. It's a mattress."
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good
Yeah.
people. I enjoyed it. Yeah, it was
crazy Batman
Cool.
utility belt of batteries.
cool. Yeah. That was a wild little job. That was fun.
That was fun. Yeah,
There's always that one little wrench though, that when they took you out of your jumpsuit
Oh,
and
and put me in the regular clothes.
and
yeah.
then it was that
Fall
was,
rate.
but we got it.
Yeah.
We got it.
We did. What did we do? 3 jumps? I think we did 3.
Okay. Yeah, I think we
4
did
max.
3. Yeah, you're right. I think it was 3. It was
Yeah.
3.
Because we did a couple practice jumps the day before. I'm wearing the jumpsuit.
Yeah.
Baggy free fly suit. Fall rates. We got it nailed.
Yeah.
It was easy too. Literally, like we're facing each other in
Yeah.
the door. I go back on my back and just
Okay.
essentially backtrack.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You also you were a great partner.
Super gay.
Anyways, which is okay. But sometimes you're filming as a cameraman, and I filmed quite a bit of stuff. I mean, by no means am I like the best in the industry, but I have quite a bit of experience. And there's certain subjects that just do their thing, and they don't work with you at all. They don't grasp they don't have the situational awareness to think, okay, my fall rate is extreme right now.
Yeah.
Maybe if I widen myself, I will fall slower, and this gentleman with the camera will be able to keep up with me.
Why is my cameraman a dot? I hope he's nailing it.
Right, exactly. And,
And you guys don't have
so-
exactly the same build.
right.
You two fallen.
We're exactly the same.
Yeah, right.
No, but
Um,
like it was. Yeah, we did those practice jumps, and then the day of, they're like, "Hey, you need to wear your
But-
street clothes."
But the other wrench was not just the fall rate, but the I mean, you had like a red plaid shirt,
Yeah.
and it popped. It dark clothes against dark-ish back. It just gray on brown isn't as good as.
well, let's add to this too the type of camera you were jumping, and
Sure.
it's not. Let's just say it wasn't a GoPro. I remember the Batman utility belt because
Yeah.
God help that thing if it ran out of batteries.
Yeah,
And you had that trigger down your
yeah,
left
it was
hand.
fun. It was fun. It was
And
a
it
cool
was-
challenge.
That's
it wa-
cool.
And it was you had to see visually what you wanted to see and then hit the button, right? And then it would go backwards and write that to the card, something like that.
Yes, so it was one of these Phantom cameras. Phantom is the industry leader in slow motion, so extremely high.
Imagine individual flutters of a garment. I mean, they could
Yeah.
crank it down so slow that you'd like, okay, that 3 seconds of film is 9 minutes.
Yeah,
It was
high,
incredibly slow.
high frame rate.
So
Yeah.
real time is 24 frames per second, and these things are shooting 1,000 plus, 1,500 even. And so because there's so much information that needs to be captured, it's an after capture. Right? The camera can't just, you can't just press record and it just stores it, because it would max out any card.
Your SIM card would have to be the size of this table.
Right. So, the idea behind an after capture is you're recording the whole time it's on, but it's not capturing. But when you see something you want to capture, you press the button and it captures the previous preset amount of seconds.
Didn't
So
you have to count after you saw what you wanted to know?
In this case, yes. So because it's an after capture. So here's in layman terms. Normally you jump out of a helicopter or a airplane, and when you get to the door or the skid of the helicopter, you press record and you jump out, and when your parachute's open, you press off.
Yep.
And that maybe takes a minute. If you're in wingsuits, it could take 2 or 3 minutes. No big deal. You can jump off and just focus on filming and seeing cool stuff. Now, with the Phantom camera, you only have 24 seconds total that you can capture. But we were able to partition it into 3 8-second increments. So in this case, I jumped out, I would frame you up, and I'd say, I like it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, take it. And when I'd say take it, I'd press the button. And then I'd reframe and fly somewhere else and see something.
And it would capture the previous 8 seconds.
Yeah, it would capture the previous 8. And then I'd
rate.
say,
Right.
look, I like it, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, take it.
Meanwhile, we're trying to capture different shots in the same jump, and this is occurring at a $120 vertical.
Yeah, 120 miles an hour, but we had pretty good signals because, like,
Yeah.
I'd nod, like, reframe.
Yep.
And
we had pretty good fall rates,
That's
too.
good.
Like, we were
Yeah,
able
that's
to
cool.
match it well.
we were. And the other thing, you got 13 pounds on your head and another 15 on your belt.
Had to have been, yeah. Had to have been at least
You know,
15.
you had organized packers, and
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I got this.
I said the same thing. Like,
Yeah.
we're good here. You'll get your paycheck, but I'm going to go ahead and pack this.
That doesn't
And
sound like that much weight to me, but that's just a different metric.
Well, you know what, though? That probably helped with the fall rate because that evened us out,
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. You just got poundage on JT.
Yeah.
But
There are a couple little things that help jobs like that. One is, okay, audible altimeter. Buy some fresh batteries, put it in there. I'm not looking at my altimeter. So I had 2 cues for altitude. One of them's my audible, other one's you.
Yeah.
And I know you're not a knucklehead, so I know when you open your parachute, it's time for me to do
When I
the
start
same.
going,
Right. So there's that. That helped it come together, and knowing your pack jobs and having that. I didn't bring the flashy parachute. You saw it. It was
Yeah.
all
Well, for you need the best opening you can possibly get with that.
slow opening,
Yeah.
dirty old GoPro parachute.
Yeah. Hey, it works, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool to meet you that way, and then
was
just
fun.
to dive right into it.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the question I was going to ask.
The worst
you.
experience.
Worst experience out of all this, because you have, dude, you have some amazing, unique experiences throughout your career, and I know that they're not all high, and they
Yeah.
probably have amazing, unique ones on the other side of the coin too. But does anything stick out for you,
It was awful.
or just if you could erase one thing?
In the whole career?
Yeah.
Well, I'll list off a few, and we can see which ones we want to go to. Buried alive in an avalanche for more than 6 minutes underneath snow.
Oh, we're getting to that for sure.
There's broken back, Twin Falls, Idaho. Total dipshit move, low parachute pull, juggling potatoes for no reason.
Were you with Miles?
No.
Because
But-
he had me juggle potato too.
Oh, yeah, I think he's the one who left the sack of potatoes out there. But I was carless and, like, waiting around in the rain underneath the bridge, and nobody was there to jump. And then people showed up, and I walked out with my friend. Oh, what do you want to do? I was like, oh, look, there's some potatoes. Why don't we do this, where we jump off the bridge, and we let 2 potatoes go, and then we try to grab the potatoes.
I've done this jump.
Yeah.
Miles had me jump with it in my right hand, jump, release, pitch, grab it.
Yeah, well, I fucked it up. And
What phase of that?
I jumped, released, went to grab the potato, kind of cinched myself ready for the parachute to open, and then I'm like, oh fuck, I forgot to pull the parachute.
Which, for people who've never seen Twin Falls, it's 4.5 seconds from exit to impact.
Yeah. And
and you're accelerating.
yeah, you're accelerating. Is it 4.5 now?
It's 4.5 seconds.
I think
It's only
I think
486
no, I
feet.
think you can do a 4,
yeah, I think it's
not more. You can do like a 4 and some change delay, and I think it's
Screw that noise.
No, I've watched
Yeah.
Jimmy do that.
I've done all of 4.
Have you really?
Well, yeah, and then this one time I pushed it a little further, but
4.1.
I think you're hitting in between like 5.5. Like right around 5.5 would be my guess.
Yep.
All right.
Mine too.
We'll cut the middle. 5.
Okay. Well,
It's 486 feet. The point
I mean,
being,
we can look-
you
we
don't
can-
got a lot of time.
yeah. I mean, we might have to link to it.
We're
again,
measuring in
but
half seconds.
We might have to
the,
link
and
to
the
it. I've got the
layperson-
shot.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, too. Like you said, Dano, we're talking 1.5 blinks of an eyelash.
It's right.
You know what I mean? So, or of, an eyelid. So, it doesn't really matter the difference between the two. So, you basically let go of the potato and then grabbed it and skipped the pitch step
Yeah,
in between.
skip that center step.
So, what broke your back? The opening, or did you just auger in?
Oh no, I was slider up,
Yeah, of course.
and I hit at line stretch basically.
You have this video, too?
Yeah.
I'm going to need all of this.
Yeah, I hit at line stretch.
I watched him
You-
almost kill himself with the bridge too. He's jumping in my Tivas. I think probably that pair in there, and doing a little
Triple
gain.
flips.
It wasn't a triple. I can't remember if
Yeah,
it was
it
triple or
was-
double.
it
I just remember
was,
watching, and he pitched head down, and that bridle went whoosh, right between the heel and the back of that
No
Tiva.
front-
Front branny back attempt, and I pitched at the wrong time, and it wouldn't have been a big deal if I'd been barefoot or if I'd been wearing my shoes, but my shoes were like soaking wet and like drying out somewhere, and I wanted to go to dinner or something.
Yeah, we were gonna go get something to eat,
And so I was like, oh, I'll just jump in your Tivas.
and you could
And the
see it.
bridle went to
The
the
bridle
one
went
spot.
one spot.
How'd you get out of that?
I kicked it off,
Oh
and
my
I watched it from the ground. It was like, and I thought,
It
oh, here
opened.
he's gonna die right now.
but it opened, but I still got, I saw stars
yeah,
that time.
I'm sure.
How long was your canopy ride?
It was quick. I don't really remember. But
That's the great thing about the bridge, though. Is this is where people experiment. And for those not familiar with base jumping, like listeners for this thing, like people do a lot of things there, and it's benign in a relative sense because
It's a
legal.
controlled, chaotic environment.
That's right. But you're not going to have an object strike. You're not going to fall off of the bridge and hit the bridge. And it's a safe runway. If you don't like what you see or you don't have good control, they can land on the river. And so
it's a great place to get overconfident, which I was.
yeah, that's the downside. That's the dark
Yeah,
side.
and complacency, and
is a
not
killer.
not having a good plan.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
made a plan on a whim when I saw a sack of potatoes. The guy I was with was like not as into it as I was, but he was like, "I'll throw a potato off and open my parachute," and it was a two-way, and
Did he grab his potato, or did he?
oh no, he was open in a moment. He was
Yeah.
just like, "Stupid idea, JT," it was that sucked. There was some physical pain. Obviously, I had compressed vertebrae, T567, I believe. So kind of right where you're right at the bottom of your rib cage, in between your shoulder blades.
Yep.
But I was extremely lucky. I could have earned myself a nice paralysis, or a fatality, and so that's also very. You get to that like self-loathing, self-hate, fucking what the hell? Why am I such an idiot? But also you're lucky, so you bounce back and put it behind you, and I feel that for the rest of my life. I feel it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things, but I just also it also inserts gratitude in my whole world. I'm like every time I feel that pain, I think I'm happy to walk through life with pain than not walk at all.
That's a
Yep.
good point.
So there's
Dude.
that. There's Shane dying. That
Yep.
sucked. There's a friend who dies in a demonstration skydive. The nature of a demonstration skydive is it's highly visible. There's losing another best friend. That was over a phone call, though I wasn't there. There's my horrible crash that we talked about at the Verbier Extreme. I was fairly injury free. Granted, I needed to be wheelchaired to the airport,
Yep. Sorry.
but that one was tough mentally because 3 weeks prior to that, I had watched my friend C.R. Johnson die on that mountain right there, pointing at the light towers off of Headwall on Squaw Valley, and it was a fairly benign crash, and he hit his head, and we did what we could and tried to resuscitate, and as did Ski Patrol, of course, but he passed away. And when I fell down that mountain, CR died in the middle of winter, and I was on the world tour, and we grieved, but I put that somewhere else and kept on my pursuit of career, and then I went and did something that was far more reckless, and I kind of had that same feeling of that I did after I got the dipshit points at the bridge with the potatoes, where you're thinking, man, I deserved a lot worse than I got, and why do I put myself in these scenarios, and what was I thinking, and all the pain you could have caused people. Because it's interesting, these extreme sports and whatnot. It's we're choosing to do these recreational acts, and we're doing them not only for fun but also for pursuit of career and money and ego and all these different motivations. It's a lot more selfish and less justifiable when it goes bad than we're fighting for freedom and we're fighting for our countries, and it's not honorable.
I disagree.
I'm not saying it's dishonorable.
No, but
it's not. It doesn't have
I know
that.
where you're going with it, Dan. I'm gonna let you take
You go ahead.
No, I think it's completely honorable, and I'm not trying to make it something that's grandiose. It's just the fact that you're pursuing something that you believe in so passionately that you'll risk your life, and the downside, of course, is you're risking the happiness and maybe even security of your family sometimes, but you're doing this because you love to do it. And it doesn't have to be deep or complex or zen.
I agree with you 100%. But you don't see that side of it when you're on your way to in a helicopter being evaluated for...
Right. Or if you're at home waiting to hear if your loved one has survived another jump.
So you're seeing that other side that I outlined. So I agree with you, but like I said, after that crash down the Verbier Extreme, I had more of a mental game injury than I had anything else because of kind of where I'd put the CR thing, and keeping in mind within the last 12 months, Shane had died and my mentor Jimmy Freeman had died. And everybody thinks Shane taught me how to jump. Shane and I ran amok and did all kinds of stuff, and he taught me a whole bunch about life and plenty about base jumping, but Jimmy Freeman taught me how to base jump.
Yeah. But those, how can you not be affected by the things that happen, not to your friends? I mean, obviously you're impacted, but when it happens to you personally, it's going to change your perspective and your ability. I had one wall strike in my, mediocre base jumping career of 500 some odd jumps. Bluebird Sky, the cliff in my backyard, I jump most days of the week. I just climb up. I get in the morning, grab my base rig, climb up 1,500 feet, jump off a 500-foot, sheer cliff, and you have this great 1,000-feet canopy ride. Bluebird Day, jumped off. Everything I always do, I even have a picture of it right before everything went sideways. 180, and I managed to pull it off.
180 means his parachute opened backwards, facing the wall.
Suboptimal when you're jumping near an object.
But the worst thing that could happen is it's going to catch on it, and you're going to slide straight down that thing and become talus food, and die at the base of your own cliff. But anyway, I pulled it off and landed. But psychologically, for the next 2 years, and maybe I'm not as resilient as other people to bounce right back from that, man. But psychologically, I kept base jumping all the time. I wanted to get. In fact, I was pissed I didn't have another canopy that I could run right back up and make another jump. I only had one parachute at the time. But man, for a couple of years, my exits on subterminal, which is low cliffs, were not as good as they should be. I kept doing it, but man, I just couldn't get past. It took me a long time.
I had the same experience when it came to my confidence when I got hurt on the job. Laid flat on my back. It was not a totally normal day, not a big deal. Doing everything the way I've always done it, and all of a sudden life just completely flips on its head. And I work my way back through rehab, and I get ready to go overseas again. And in the back of my head, it's like, can I still actually do this? It's a huge mind game, and it took me a long time, and I don't know if I ever even got over it. I think it's a good thing I got medically retired, because I don't know if I ever fully got rid of, am I still able to do this to the level that I was able to do before? It nags at you for sure.
Yeah, I think I've got some residual. I think still, and I have an agreement. I don't do subterminal cliffs anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Dude, tell me about being in an avalanche.
Yeah, I'm happy to tell you about it because I'd rather people take my word for it than
Yeah.
give it a go themselves. Um, the avalanche experience is, let's see here. Where do we start? Basically, um, that one was full. It was full of mind fuck as well. But the small. Okay, I'm out. I'm backcountry skiing. Good team.
Here in the U.S.?
Yep.
Yep.
Here in Lake Tahoe, had 2 professional mountain guides, which was a very good thing at the end of the day. Literally at the end of the day. The not a remarkable mountain. We didn't have some kind of huge objective of getting extremely rad and capturing some kind of action sports footage. It was more of a opportunity to fill some seats in a snowcat that was going out for more of like a tourist show. And so I went, and my buddy Darren Rawls and his wife, and there was it had been fairly stable, but then there was this period of time where the snow, we had some fresh snow, a lot of varying winds and a lot of varying temperatures, so the guides were kind of concerned, and we dug 2 pits, and we talked a lot about avalanche stuff on the way out there because a couple of people in the film crew didn't really have any experience. And I was the 4th one on slope, and suddenly it just cut loose, just cut free.
Directly underneath your feet?
Yep, underneath my feet. It was like spider webs, or like, if a rock hits your windshield, it just cracks. And we'd established that to the right was the safe zone, and that was where we were all to meet. But when it happened, my skis were facing to the left, and I glanced right, but there was a tree between me and the safe zone on the right, and left looked good, and it was a reaction.
Yeah.
And it was the wrong reaction.
Well, you're still on top of this snow at that point.
Still on top, and I went left at a 45 instead of right at a 45.
Okay.
To go right would have been, I don't know if that was really makeable with my skis facing left. It would have been makeable if I was skiing faster, but because this was an area that I'd never skied before, I was skiing, and the slope was such that you didn't get a look at it before you were on it. You didn't get much of a look. So I was skiing slightly slower than I normally would, and with less speed means less agility and less ability to escape. Anyways, I reacted. I went left, and as I went left, the avalanche propagated left. It extended to where I was hoping to escape it, and I almost still did. I mean, there was just 2 chunks uphill of me that were like the size of a 110 Yeti cooler, and they swept my feet out from under me, and now I'm kind of sitting on my heels. My skis are under the snow. I'm going down the fall line, and I'm like, okay, now I'm in this avalanche. And then it sped, of course, and it, instead of these chunks of rock, it becomes more of like a chaotic smoking, like the crashing part of the wave, the white
it seems
water.
like very smoky is a good description. Having never been near one, but like the mist in the air, like visibility just goes to shit. It seems like
visibility goes away, but also the bottom part, the flowing part of it, where it's condensing in because of a funnel. Is, well, I mean, maybe it's not a funnel in every case, but in my case it was a chute, so it was funneling down, so it's gaining more weight and power to grasp you. But then of course it went over a small couple of cliffs, and then at that point it was tumbling amidst this mass.
Did your skis get ejected?
No, skis are still on at this point. I run a pretty strong DIN setting, and they're still on, and I'm tumbling. And I'm kind of sometimes on the surface, sometimes under, but once it's going over cliffs and stuff, it's less glue-like because it's more, it's in a bit of free fall too. But I'm tumbling. I felt and heard rocks that my skis were hitting, and but I'm tumbling. I'm kind of keeping an awareness of when I'm oriented right way up, for sake of breathing and for sake of ending up right way up. And then after the small cliffs, the mountain flattened out quite quickly. And so things started to slow down, and luckily I was right side up. But I'm slowing and slowing, and I can't get my arms up, and my legs are totally buried. Everything's buried. I'm basically buried up to my neck. And I thought to myself, if there's more coming, I'm fucked.
Because there's gonna only thing left to cover is your head.
Yeah.
So why can you couldn't move your hands up because of the consistency of the snow?
Because even just the 8 inches of snow, the 8 inches of snow was stronger than I was.
Wow.
Because it's this cement-like version of snow.
Huh.
Because it's just been churned up, just like the cement in the cement mixer.
Yeah.
Right. This is Sierra snow, not super dry POW, and I couldn't move them, and there was like no arguing. It wasn't like second guessing and like if I try this way or that way, like I'm glued in. There was no moving my arms, and my legs are under 4 feet of snow or something.
Yeah.
And then the second wave came.
Oh shit.
Yeah, and so then that pushed my head down and contorted me into this strange position. I believe my head was lower than my torso, and one leg was scorpioned up by my heel, or one of my heels was like scorpioned up towards my back of my head, and then the other one was in another awkward but not yoga-like position. And then you're just there, and you can still see, but then the snow starts filling in, and there's just little cracks in the snow you can see through, gray-blue cracks, and then those fill in, and then you can't move anything. You can't move a finger.
Yeah.
Nothing. You can't flex your quads. Nothing. There's nothing you can move, and
Sounds like you're in a vice.
Yeah. Yeah. There's pressure, but in my case, it wasn't violent pressure at that point. I didn't have pain wasn't on my mind, but you're in its grips. There's no getting out of it.
Yeah.
And there was in my case, there was no thought of I'm going to make some Herculean effort and save my own life right now and bust out of this, because you have no leverage to push off. There's nothing you can move. So you're just cemented in, and you can't see anything, and you can't move anything, and you can't hear anything. The last thing I heard was more snow filling in above me, and I'm just thinking, then I don't hear anymore, and I'm wondering, is it because the snow stopped filling in, or is it because I'm so damn deep
That you just can't
that
hear.
you can't hear it anymore?
But you can breathe still?
No, fuck no.
So there's no place for your chest cavity to move, so you just skip breathing? No, you have your own form is unaffected in my case. Yeah.
If I'd been smashed into like a tree branch, my own body's form would have been unaffected. Would have been affected, bent, tweaked. But in my case, I could move my lungs, but there was nothing there to breathe. And so I went into this pep talk mode of, okay, these guys are coming. I knew there was some things that I had on my side, which was I was seen. That's good.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 mountain guides. That's good. I was the only person in the avalanche, so that betters my chances of being found. And my guides are uphill from me. These are all good things. So I was as positive as I could be, and pushed aside the thought of dying, and I just focused on what I could control, and I tried to stay calm, control my heart rate, not breathe.
Yeah.
I've never had any formal training in breath holding, but some of my friends had through Red Bull, and they had told me that the main takeaway is that first urgent feeling that your mind has is totally bogus. You don't need it. So I think I maybe stuck that one right out of the gate.
You took the accelerated
I was like, no. We're not going to start wrestling now. This is not a debate yet.
Yeah.
And I just kept reminding myself that I used to be pretty decent at holding my breath. I could do 75 yards underwater when I was on the water polo team, and I just try to, I remind myself they were coming, and thought about a lot of shit, honestly, lots and lots of shit under there. But
did you eventually go out?
No, I blacked out, and in the end, so my mind and my lungs were in a battle, and my mind was saying don't breathe, and my lungs were begging for it, and in the end, the lungs won. And I started sucking for air that wasn't there.
Yeah.
Fruitless little bursts.
And you know what that's like.
Yeah, I do.
That's right.
Unfortunately.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's a.
I know the battle you're talking about. Like
bet you do.
Burning, urging, like, give it to me now, and your brain's like, just a little bit longer.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And anyway, I lost, and I passed out, and luckily they got to me. No peeps and shovels.
Yeah.
No avalanche airbag.
Yeah.
Peeps, shovels, and probes.
How long were you under the snow?
Between 6 and 7 minutes, and I determined that from GoPro footage. No less than 6.
Yeah.
No more than 7. Maybe like 7:04, but probably 6:20.
What do you remember about coming to?
It was horrible.
Really?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty bad. I was very scared. I had a disconnect between my mind and my my ability to respond and my ability to assess everything.
Yeah, because your brain's oxygen
Deficient.
deprived. Yeah, to an extreme level.
Yeah.
So the synapses aren't firing correctly. And
Yeah.
Not
And
connecting
it
dots.
was like somewhere in my mind, it was like I thought that it was never going to be the same again or something, and
Yeah.
I didn't know what the fuck had happened, but
Yeah.
it was definitely bad, and I had a burning pain through my extremities mostly,
Yep.
and I think that's the oxygen going back in, and I was swearing and apologizing, and the light was bright, and I was fucking scared, and I kept saying I wanted to go home. And
Which is fair. You had a pretty rough day.
yeah.
Wow. That'd be a tough one to get back
But
on
I was
horse
also
from,
able
too.
to say I was okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, I'm okay, I'm unhurt. I'm fucking pissed. What the fuck? I'm so sorry. I just want to get the fuck out of here. It's just like agitated, scared, and upset.
I mean, how many lives has this guy lived through?
I don't know. I think it's a difficult number to tally.
Yeah.
When
We haven't
you-
even touched on the driving yet.
Well, the end of that avalanche thing, I know that I was close to death because, like, physiologically close to death because I got up, stood up, and I realized I was unhurt.
Yeah.
And we were deep in the backcountry, and the only way to get out of there is ski. And my skis were there. I clicked into them, and I grabbed the nearest set of poles. They weren't mine. Mine were long gone. I figured someone else could do without. And I went to ski, and I just thought, why the heck am I soaking wet? And I'd pissed myself.
That's part of the
It's
end.
a self-preservation thing that the body does. Keep warm or something. I don't know.
It doesn't work, yeah, but
It also makes you just that much more ready to get the hell out of there. And so I just fucking started skiing.
God, man, that's a hell of a day.
And then the people were like, that I was with, I think they're like, well, I guess he's skiing out of here. I went first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we got back to the truck and passed around a little flask of whiskey someone had and gave a few hugs.
Holy shit, man.
And the one thing, I always tip my guides. Always. Mountain guides deserve a tip.
Yeah.
They work hard. Your life's in their hands. They carry the heavy pack. Didn't that day. Didn't occur to me till after, and then I think to myself, well, what's it worth? Is that a 50 spot? And then I'm thinking, man, did they just think I'm the ultimate prick?
Do you understand what we just did?
Yeah. I cleared the air though. I met with my buddy this May.
Yeah.
I was like,
I think
hey,
you're going to get a
man.
pass on that one. You're
I was
probably
like-
slightly mentally
I
compromised.
said, I was like, hey, was I good with a thank you on that one? He's like, you're good, man. You're good.
God.
At least you followed up.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what you're doing now. I mean, I didn't realize you were into racing vehicles
Yeah.
as much as you are. When did that start?
It started when I was a little boy. My dad was always racing. My uncle was always racing, and they would race Baja Bugs, Volkswagen Bugs, just little $7,000 race cars down in Mexico. And so I grew up with it. And when I was 11, I was in the co-pilot seat with my dad, or my uncle or whoever. I was a super eager kid. And then when I was 16, I started driving. It's all been at a varied level of participation.
Yeah.
Until the last 4 or 5 years, it's been on mostly my dad or my uncle's dime and whatever their expendable income is and whatever they want to do. And but I've been able to get some sponsor support, first from my friends at Urban Armor Gear, cell phone cases.
Yeah, those things are badass.
They are badass. They no longer sponsor me, but they're rad cases anyways, and I still use them.
Nonetheless, they are still good gear. Yeah.
Yep. And so they enabled me to run my own race program, and we had some good success, and it's been cool.
What type of racing are you doing?
So yeah, for the viewers, it's the Baja 1000, Baja 500. It's the Score International Off-Road Series, and I love racing in Mexico because I love the adventure of being in another country and being able to rip right through towns and how stoked the locals are, and I love the citizens of Baja California Norte. Just in my experience, awesome people.
The videos of the, I don't know what they're called, rally trucks?
Yeah, the trophy trucks, they call them.
And the people standing on the side of
Yep.
the road and the distance that those two entities are missing each other, I am not comfortable with.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody's got to die there every year, right?
Spectators do die, and there's massive pushes for awareness. One of the Mexican champions, his name is Tavo Vildosola.
Yeah.
And he's top level badass driver, but he's even funded coloring books for kids that have essentially they show to not be on the outside of the turn. The inside of the turn is where to watch from, because if the car loses it, its momentum's going to the outside of the turn. So they're making their efforts, but people are out there, they're excited, they want to see the race, they want to feel like they're a part of it, and there's some drinking going on sometimes. I mean,
looks like there's a scotch.
So yeah,
Just
the thing is, for in our world down there, my race team, we're not. We see that I happen to be, my race team's like 75% Mormon.
Yeah. No, I mean
so,
in the spectators.
Oh yeah, I guess so. We're not. When you're not drinking, you're not really noticing it as much because you're not out as late, and you're kind of just like, oh, there's campfires and cans. It's just not on your radar as much. But yeah, there's drinking going on, and there's poor judgment going on with and without alcohol. But it's also, I mean, it's just so dang cool down there. I've had a guy I've broken down, and a dude comes up on a horse. And I've been in what I felt was the most remote part of the race course. It was 117 degrees as the Baja 1000 or Baja 500 a few years ago, known as one of the most brutal, rough Baja 500s. And I'm in the horrible silt beds. Silt is like this talcum powder, baby powder stuff, which you guys know.
I've seen videos of people driving into it in trucks, and it just disappears.
Yeah.
And then windows are down, doors are open. It's almost, that's a video in and of itself with the spectators that I think I might have to link as well.
Yeah. So I'm going through this silt, and I haven't seen people in 20, 30 minutes, and it's this really demanding driving because you can't see much, but there's these critical ditches to avoid. And I lifted for a ditch, lost my momentum, and I got stuck, and we can barely see anything. I can't see anything, haven't seen a person forever. It's 117 degrees, and you're in the middle of friggin' silt. It's horrible dipshit move. You just got stuck. Well, guess what? I happened to get stuck right next to the first car that we've seen in 20 or 30 minutes, and That car happens to be a red Dodge Ram pickup truck with a chain attached to the hitch. And this guy is just ready for it, yanks us out of there right away.
And you're on your way.
I hand him like $10 worth of pesos. His eyes light up, and he's just cheering, hands in the air, so stoked. And like those sort of adventurous experiences, they don't happen when you're racing in Nevada.
Yeah.
It's just different.
Out of all the stuff you do, I mean, we didn't even really touch on the Hollywood stuff. I mean, I guess we did a little bit, but not how you got into it. Everything you do, what's your favorite?
Skiing.
Still to this day?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that makes sense given we're literally looking at ski
Yeah,
hills.
sometimes it's not. I'd say, when I say it's my favorite, it's ingrained in me. I've been doing it forever. If I had to choose just one sport, I could never give it up. So that would be my favorite. It's a part of me, and it's such a social sport. There's so many forms of it. You can do it in the backcountry in solitude, or you can do it, in like a party atmosphere of the local terrain park in the springtime. And I consider speed riding, my skiing with an open parachute, a form of skiing. So I'm going to slide that in there and call
I'll
that.
give that to you. You still have skis on.
I still have
That's
skis
gonna
on.
count.
And you're
Yeah.
using them. You're not.
Yeah.
They're not strapped to your feet for launch. You're actually skiing.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one you had to get rid of, which one would it be?
Base jumping.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mean, I love it, but there's a lot of ways to have fun, and I've had about 7 friends die skiing and north of 40 in the base jumping and parachuting world. So it's just a lot of ways to have fun. Real good right now.
Yeah. So what do you guys you're going to test run the course?
No, we're going to. So racing is very expensive, and
You mean those ridiculously
yeah,
awesome
yeah.
things are they're not cheap?
Nope. I'm
Especially if
lucky.
you pommel them for 1,000 miles.
Exactly. The Baja 1000 was a 1,100 mile race. We broke down at mile 980, but and in the winter I have to kind of step back from racing because I'm a professional skier and speed rider for Red Bull. But I've got the support of BF Goodrich and Polaris Razor to go do some racing in 2018, and my plan was to do the Baja 500 in June, but I had a small injury in June, and I am going down to test my race car and dial in some shocks and try the new 32-inch KR2 from BF Goodrich. That's a new tire I'm going to be running, and just, that means making sure the brakes still work as well. And it's kind of there's so much that goes into it, into racing outside of the race. But if you want to win, you have to be very in tune with your gear and your race program. Race program means co-pilots, support team, everything, every component on your car. It's a big hassle. But what the payoff is when we go, you and I do gravity sports, and it is a wingsuit flight is, a couple minutes, 3 minutes.
If you're lucky.
With the parachute part is 3 minutes. So it's a minute of flying, and a killer, like a base jump wingsuit, might even be 20 seconds until your parachute's open, and you still are stoked on that. And a wave surfing, same thing. I go skiing right over here, Squaw Valley. It takes me about 2 minutes to get to the top to bottom anywhere. But I can get in that race car and I can go 16, 20 hours,
Yeah.
or maybe just 10. But that's a long time, and you're on point, and you feel like you're making that. It's the same decision making you make when you're flying a wingsuit, and you're thinking, okay, am I going left or right of the trees? Am I taking the line or not? The line I've scouted, or the alternate line? All that decision making is still happening. So you're on point for a really long time.
Yeah, it sounds like it. When
It's
is the
fun.
actual race?
So the Baja 1000 is November 18th this year, I believe, or maybe November 16th. It's always that middle weekend in November, the one before Thanksgiving.
So you get some time. To
I got some
dial
time.
in.
I'm going to do other races though. Maybe Vegas to Reno if the car's good and ready. That's August 9th, and then there's another race I've got on the radar mid September.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
I kind of want to trade lives with them a little bit.
You guys are doing great.
At the very least, I'm going to come participate at some point.
You should.
Even if it's from a spectator perspective. But yeah, I got to get the family down here to get them out of our resort, and you have to come up to Montana.
I know. I will. You mark my words.
Daniel, you're invited as well. Are you a snow sport gentleman as well? You have to be living in Alto.
I ski every day.
All right, then you're invited too.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
Everybody
It's hard
can
to
come.
peel him away from his wife.
Yeah. Well, you know how that works, man.
Bring
This
us
is my
along.
life for many years.
There you go.
Yeah.
Bring her along.
Does she ski?
She skis.
The only thing
Perfect.
about they have a cat.
That's an unfortunate. We had this mouse insurgency because we live up on a mountain.
Yeah.
And for the first time in my life, I ended up with this cat, which we imported from L.A. because it was some amazing mouser cat. That's a true story. And this guy drove it all the way up to Utah and gave it to us. And we haven't had a mouse since. But the downside is I've got a cat.
Yeah. We have a cat too. It's my 13-year-old's, which
There you go.
essentially
Oh,
means it's ours.
Yeah. Of course.
God.
Let's just say it doesn't make us lesser men.
Well, it's not my cat. I live in the same house that a cat resides in. That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I call it the cat. I don't even know what gender it is, honestly.
We got to do this again, man. I don't
Yeah.
take up
There-
any more of your time. but
Well,
that
we
was
talked
awesome,
for a
man.
really long time. I'm so maybe I was long-winded,
No, dude.
but
that
I
was good.
enjoyed
You
it.
were
It was.
long-winded.
Was
It
I?
was good, though.
Oh.
It was a good win.
It was, yeah.
You can give me signals, man. You're supposed to be driving
No.
this train.
You're good. I like it. I honestly could listen to you tell stories for
Right.
like days.
Yeah.
It's
But you've got great stories too. Do your
Yeah.
listeners know your background? I'm not that I hear.
Yeah,
not
they
that I'm here to
must.
out you, but they know who you are and roughly what you know.
I don't talk a lot about military stuff. It's I understand the desire for people to want to hear about it, and I understand the misconceptions that most people have, whether it's from books or social media or whatever media in general it is. But my one burning goal is to not be defined by that stuff, and
I'm
just
with you 100%,
to
man.
move away from it. And I don't know. I mean, they know. I mean, obviously the jumping stuff, and right now I've been hunting a bunch too. But I don't know. I mean, I'll answer questions occasionally about it. I don't lead with it. I'll put it to you like that. So,
Yeah.
but I definitely don't tell stories. Most of mine are honestly they're boring. I think they are, at least. It's like, yeah, there we were.
Doubt it.
Same thing over and over. Let's
Yeah.
go get something to eat.
Yeah. Let's eat.
Food?
Killer-
Done. All right.
killer.
Thanks,
All right.
Chance.
Thanks.
That's it. That's all the awesome I can pack in this week's episode. JT makes me feel like I'm a lazy sack of beans. That guy does so much stuff, constantly charging. And I love hanging out with people like him and knowing people like him because they light a fire under my ass because it reminds me that I'm able to do more and I should do more. What else? Thank you to the people who are listening to this, to the people who are helping me spread the word, to the people who are supporting the podcast through buying the t-shirts or going to RX Bar. And on that note, thank you again to RX Bar for sponsoring this episode of the podcast. As a reminder, if you go to rxbar.com/clearedhot and you use the promo code clearedhot, you're going to get 25% off your first order. Go buy the chocolate sea salt. I'm serious. You're not going to be disappointed. Yeah, I mean, thank you to everybody who's helping me spread the word. I think that's the biggest thing. Heading out the door early tomorrow morning, heading up to Alberta. Going to be doing some bow hunting. I've been looking forward to this day since the day I drove home from Alberta last year. What else? Some of the videos that JT referenced are in the narrative description of the podcast. I highly recommend you go look at the top 5 crashes. His Tomahawk was unbelievable, and I'm amazed that he walked away from it. And that is it for this week. If you have time, do me a favor, write a review on iTunes. Good, bad, ugly, indifferent, whatever it may be. If you have a suggestion to make the podcast better, do me a favor. Don't keep it to yourself and actually reach out to me on social media or hit the contact button on Cleared Hot Podcast.